No worries. Yeah.
Hi, Alon. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
You are in
Thank
Israel.
you for inviting.
You were a spokesperson for Israel Army. You work with many people. But now I want to ask you something. You are there in Israel, and we're looking around the world, and people are starting to forget, if it's possible, what happened on October 7, or are trying to denial, or are trying to say it was not so big. What can we do? Because it's like, for people who already saw it, it's like, I already saw it. How can we maintain this alive so people will know it?
So people are denying October 7th and forgetting October 7th, just like they were forgetting the Holocaust, and like some are still denying the Holocaust. And I guess that the main thing we need to do is coming up with commemoration initiatives to remember and commemorate what happened, the testimonies and the stories of October 7th, of the victims, of the survivors. Try to cover as many, to get as much as information as we can with as many details as possible, specified as they can be, about October 7th, about all aspects of the horrific events that occurred, whether it was at the Nova Festival or at the Kibbutzim or at the Deadly Roads. We need to get testimonies, real testimonies from people who were there in real time, from the unfortunate abuse of women, of the torture of entire families, of the beheading of children. Those are very difficult testimonies, obviously, to hear and to be exposed to, but this is unfortunate. That was a reality on October 7th, and we must not forget what happened. We must always remember what happened to our beloved ones, those we lost and those who survived. And this is why I came up with, I believe, one of the most important commemoration initiatives that the state of Israel basically has right now, which is Testimonies Without Boundaries. It's a book about October 7th. It's a first of a kind book that covers over 60 testimonies from that horrific day. Completely uncensored testimonies. I was making sure not to soften or censor anything. I was providing elaborated, specified details of what happened on October 7th. And I obviously collected the testimonies from people who were there in real time, from those who collected the bodies, from Israel's Medical Forensic Institute, from Nova survivors, in order to create a historical documentation that would commemorate what happened for generations to come.
Tell me something, Alon. We're here in Mexico, or in many places. I don't want to get used, but we get used to see bad news. When we see it 2, 3, it doesn't impress us. It's like, okay, it happened, but it doesn't shock us, all right? It doesn't move us. What can we, in this book, Testimonies Without Boundaries, tell us that it's different? What did you write about that it's different?
So it is completely different, again, because it is completely uncensored. It tells the exact stories of October 7th, and when I'm saying specify details, I mean that when someone tells me about a specific incident of a child who was beheaded, or a family which was tortured on October 7th, so I get to the very specific details of what happened in this specific incident, in this specific location, in order to provide a very true, honest and specified documentation of what happened. This is very rare. It doesn't happen. The news doesn't cover it. You can't find it on TV. You can't find it on social media. We're basically, and I also can tell you that there are testimonies from October 7th in the book that we have not yet heard of, that the public itself has not yet heard of, has not yet been exposed to. Exclusive testimonies that we have not yet heard of. From October 7th, it's been 10 months since. We may think that we know everything that happened on that horrific day, but unfortunately we don't. And this is what's so special and unique about the book. First of all, it shares new testimonies that we haven't heard about, and also it shares them with specific details, not trying to make it easy on the readers, just giving them all the information. Again, because it's important that we all remember what happened there in a very specific way. Obviously, it's not an easy book to read. It's a very challenging read, no question. But that's also why the book is also one of the most important ones, because it shares the very true story of what happened. And I'm calling upon people to go and purchase and distribute the book, because this is basically our history that's so important that people would remember. As you're saying, people are already denying, people are forgetting. That's so important that people will keep remembering what happened on October 7th. For this, I need the people, the Jewish, not only the Jewish people, not only Israelis, but every human being, every rational individual who feels who's related to humanity. You know, that you don't need to be more than a human being to read the book and realize its importance.
Tell me something. You talk about very impressive details that are on the book. Can you tell us a little bit which one impressed you more, or a little bit of one of the stories you have there, so people will know what are they getting in with reading this book, or what can they find? And let's say, and repeat it, these are all true stories. It's not a novel. It's not. They are true stories. Which one, for example, did impress you most of it?
Like one of the testimonies that that I wrote in the book. That's what you mean. That's your question, to
Yes.
elaborate about one of this. So it's not easy to hear, but I can tell you that one of the testimonies, there were so many, and every time I'm asked that question, I'm asked that frequently, or at events or lectures that I do. So I tell a different one from so many different testimonies that I heard, and one of them was about a child. You can definitely find it in the first chapter in the book, about a very young child. It was very difficult to determine what his age was at the time because of the condition of the body. It wasn't yet identified by Israel's Medical Forensic Institute, so determining his age was difficult, but he was definitely a young child. And in this specific situation, which was very unusual, the child who was dead um, did not have any gunshots on the body. He did not have any gunshots.
Wow.
He was, though, found not only beheaded, but also with his hands cut off.
Wow.
So he was beheaded and his hands were cut off. And we cannot know for sure what happened first. We cannot know whether he was first beheaded and then his body was abused, or first of all they tortured him by cutting off his hands, and only then, when he was bleeding to death, they beheaded him. We can't know what happened first, but we can
It's
for
impressive.
sure.
It's already impressive. Without hands, it doesn't matter what's happened. We hope they killed him before that. But
And we do know for sure, we don't know what happened first, but we do know for sure that he was tortured while he was still alive. Because whether they cut off his hands or beheaded him, he was still alive at the time. Because there weren't gunshots on the body. And this is the cruelty of Hamas and other terrorist organizations which invaded Israel on October 7th. And this is exactly what I'm saying, uncensored, when it comes to the book. This is what I'm saying when I'm mentioning and emphasizing the importance of commemoration. We have to remember exactly what happened, and we cannot ignore the specific details of cruelty that occurred on October 7th, because October 7th wasn't only about killing, about coming and killing and raising the death toll. Hamas and other terrorists came here to Israel to basically torture and humiliate and abuse everyone who stood on their way. And that was the purpose, to eliminate, annihilate, torture as many people as possible, whether they were children or elderly or women. They didn't care. They were incited and brainwashed for years. I always try to come up with how to describe them, whether they're animals or monsters, but I never make it. I never come up with a definition to the worst terrorists that the human history has ever known. And maybe we thought that the Nazi period expired, but on October 7th we realized it didn't expire. People can be cruel also in 2024. People can commit things that the human brain cannot comprehend. We witnessed it, unfortunately.
exactly. Tell me something. Many people, or we have been talking about women abuse. There are testimonies about that, because many say it didn't happen. It didn't. they were not, they killed just, or they raped them. Are there any testimonies we have here about this rape and abuse for women are men? Because there were only for men, for women.
So there was sexual assault on men as well. And by the way, my book is first of a kind also because it shares testimonies of sexual assault on men as well. This is something that hasn't been discussed so often during the last 10 months, and it should, because there was sexual assault on both men and women. And obviously the book shares both. It shares testimonies of men who were found tied up and naked with metal objects inserted to their groins, and about women who their pelvis was very clear what happened there. You could see what was going on there, and about gang rapes of Hamas terrorists, gang rapes of women on October 7th. You can definitely find it in the book, and there is definitely evidence for that. And the international community obviously has been denying it. A part of the international community has been denying it, although there has been clear evidence the entire time. Although we know exactly what happened there, although Hamas terrorists themselves took photos and videos of the horrors that took place on October 7th, and then yet the international community is denying, and that's why it's important that sexual assault appears on the book, both what happened to women and men, in a very detailed way, as you can already imagine from my previous testimony.
You're very young, like 23, I think so, and you have already been in the army. You have been already done many things that many young people around the world won't do it. But tell me something. You were an officer, a spokesman in the unit of the COGAT. The COGAT is the organization that coordinates with the Palestinians, with Gaza, especially. No?
And with Gaza and the Palestinian Authority, yeah, both.
All right. Tell me something. Many think that what happened on October 7th, it was because Israel didn't let the Palestinians, or did bad, or was it already inside Gaza? Explain us a little bit what was the situation before October 7th with the Gaza, with the Palestinians and Israel.
So this is how absurd it is, because during my military service, my private unit, myself, we're in charge of coordinating civilian affairs in the Palestinian territories, both in Judah and Samaria and the Gaza Strip. We were coordinating life-saving medical treatments to Palestinian patients from Gaza. I was there at the Erez crossing while we were basically transferring Palestinian patients from Gaza to Israeli hospitals to take care of them. We're providing permits for Palestinians from both Gaza and the West Bank to enter Israel for many different reasons, whether it's visiting their families or just a trip or medical treatments or for work. Over 100,000 people, Palestinians, worked in Israel, financing their families in Israel. During COVID, we were coordinating joint medical trainings for Palestinian and Israeli doctors to know how to handle COVID. We were coordinating a vaccination campaign for over 100,000 Palestinians in Judah and Samaria in order to get them vaccinated. We donated thousands of medical kits, testing kits to the Gaza Strip in order to help them deal with COVID. We were helping the Palestinians consistently in the Gaza Strip and in Judah and Samaria, because these are the fundamental values of Israel. That shouldn't be surprising. Maybe it's surprising for the international community that hears that, because it is fed with bad news about Israel all worldwide. But obviously, the cooperation between Israel and the PA before October 7th was strong. Israel was helping the Palestinians. Israel was improving Palestinian lives, both in Judah and Samaria and the Gaza Strip. Israel was coordinating civilian projects to improve the Palestinian infrastructure in Gaza Strip before October 7th. So all the criticism, and the allegations accusations that Israel perhaps treated the Palestinians badly, and this is what caused October 7th. So generally, I would say nothing justifies October 7th. But anyway, the accusations are untrue as well, because Israel was trying to help the Palestinians, was trying to improve their lives, was trying to improve their civilian situation, was trying to improve the residential territories in the Palestinian territories. And that's very unfortunate that those are the accusations we hear in the news. And I'm here to refute them. I'm here to refute them. By the way, I wrote the book and I have my experience, as you said, from the military, and I am already giving speeches and lectures and public speaking events to many foreign delegations which arrive to Israel. And I intend to go abroad to many different countries to share this exact story, both what happened on October 7th and what happened before October 7th. And I'm looking forward to to making sure that the world hears about it, and we know what happens on the news. We know what the international community hears from most of the news outlets worldwide, and that's why it's so important. And I'll keep the hard work, definitely.
Tell me something. How can we answer the people who tell us, Israel didn't give them anything of what you are telling? Huh? It was like a prison in Gaza. They were, I don't know, dying from. We see the picture before. They were dying. They didn't have gas. They didn't have electricity. How can we show them, or how can we answer them?
Look at the facts. Look at the reality. Look at photos. Look at the fishing zone, for instance, in the Gaza Strip. Fishing zone was basically a very important financial resource for the residents of the Gaza Strip. They were able to fish and sell and import and export from different countries and territories. Look at it. It was definitely open. There were 15 miles where the Gaza residents could be at the fishing zone and make a living out of it. And there was, look at the exports and the imports between Israel and the residents of the Gaza Strip before October 7th. Look at the Erez crossing, at the photos from Erez crossing of thousands of Palestinians who crossed every day from the Gaza Strip to Israel and back to work in Israel and come back, bring money to their families. Look at the video on YouTube. You can find me in the video at the Erez crossing, as I told you, with a Palestinian patient who has just been returned from a hospital in Jerusalem. She was in severe medical condition, and Israel provided her with an emergency life-saving medical treatment, and she was very grateful for that. So you just have to look at the reality. It was what was happening. There are facts. You have to look at the vaccination campaigns I just told you. Just look at what was happening. I was there physically. I can give you photos of myself from the days and the weeks while there was a vaccination campaign. I was there with the Palestinians who were vaccinated. I can give you the photos of the imports and the exports that provided assistance, financial assistance to the Gaza Strip. So obviously there would always be people denying. There is no question here. Also, when it comes to the book and the atrocities and the testimonies that are described in the book, the international community would always deny. But we have to look to focus on a population that wishes to actually listen and learns more of what actually is going on in Israel and in the Middle East in general, rather than just listening to the news and trying to accuse Israel. So this is the population we're trying to focus on, not the population that already is going after Israel to accuse Israel, although it knows nothing about what's going on here.
Tell me something. What happened on October 7th? Why? What happened? I don't know where were you, but it was this song you were there. I don't know how many times in your military service. What happened there? Because nobody believes what happened. Nobody knows what happened there with the Palestinians, with Gaza, with Israel. What happened there, Alon?
You mean that's a question that will be answered for years, and in terms of what's unfortunate, I always say that what's unfortunate for October 7th, and I wish I didn't have to say that, but that's the reality, that not only Hamas terrorists invaded Israel on October 7th, but also residents of the Gaza Strip who saw the opportunity and saw the open the open fences and just got in, and were part of the massacre, committed the massacre. The question of what happened there is a great question of how such a failure also occurred to Israel. You know, Israel has obviously one of the strongest militaries in the world. There is no question here. It's the home of the Jewish people, it's their sovereignty. And the question of what happened and the failure that occurred is a question that definitely needs to be answered, no doubt. And the public wishes to get the answers as soon as possible. But I will be super honest with you, most honest, this is not a question for me to answer, as I'm not investigating the actual failure or how the border was breached, uh, how Hamas terrorists were let in, you know, that day. What I'm investigating is what happened during the massacre, how it was committed. I'm exploring the evil, I'm investigating, dipping into the evil of Hamas terrorists. I'm trying to find out exactly what happened, commemorate the testimonies, and the question of how it happened and how Israel let it happen, that's a question probably for the political echelon or for other people to answer, not for me. Yeah.
Tell me something. What was, where were you at this October 7th, and what happened in your mind after being, you were there? I don't know how many time, how much time before it happens. What crossed around your mind when it happens, and you start hearing what was going around there? I think you have a lot of friends from the Palestinian side also. Doing with them, I'm sure you have many friends there that you talk every day with them.
Yeah. So I can tell you that the military base of my military unit, which I was part of, one of the military bases of my unit, was based right near the defense with the Gaza Strip, right near the Erez crossing. I spent weeks over there, you know. I spent weeks during my military service over there, and the very beds and rooms I was sleeping in, the people who were sleeping there on October 7th were slaughtered. So the first thing that came to my mind was, I've been there. I was sleeping in that very bed that now I'm looking at the photos. I see the entire amount of soldiers being massacred over there. I see their bodies. I was there. Not long time ago, I was there. It's just a matter of timing, you know. And I have so many friends who are there. Who have I lost? Who is still alive? Who can I contact? How can I contact them? I see the military base, not only the rooms, completely ruined, completely destroyed. I've been there, you know, not long ago. And that's devastating. That's devastating. That's unbelievable. At the beginning of October 7th, in the morning, you already see the photos and videos. You can't imagine that that's the truth. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. You see the Erez crossing, which I just told you served for providing Palestinian patients, for instance, for life-saving medical treatments, being used in order to infiltrate Israel and murder soldiers in innocent civilians. And you know, being there before October 7th gave me the understanding of where the terrorists were operating at the time, and yeah, I lost some of my friends. I have a neighbor who's still being held captive in the Gaza Strip. Matan Andresti is a soldier. We all want him back as soon as possible. That was a tragedy, you know. That day, I'm still thinking about October 7th and everything that happened that day, you know. In the morning, I already imagined that the number of casualties would be so high because the border was infiltrated, it was invaded. But I never imagined how cruel the massacre would be, how it would look like, you know, after October 7th, how the roads would look like, how the military base would look like, how Be'eri and Nachal Oz and Kfar Aza would look like. And yes, that's not an easy mental process, not for those who were there before October 7th and saw the territories like me, but also for obviously, mostly for those who were there in real time, but also for those who've never been there and know nothing about the South and just heard about what happened on October 7th. This is a national tragedy that became a personal tragedy for every Israeli individual, regardless of how politically involved he is or how much he knows about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For everyone.
Tell me something. You have friends, Palestinian friends, when you were there. You have a relation, you have to talk with them, you have to work with them. For many years you were there. Are you still in contact with some of them? Have you spoken with them after October 7th? It's possible they tell you something. What happened with that?
So as always, there are people who condemn the atrocities. Luckily, there are people who completely condemn the atrocities and they know how wrong it is. There are people who I can tell you for sure are afraid to express their thoughts because they're living in Gaza under cruel Hamas government, and they are afraid to share their thoughts. And there are people who I haven't yet had the chance to actually speak with after October 7th. This is a shock to all of us. Those last 10 months have been shocking to all of us. Honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing more optimistic polls on the Palestinian side, to see more people from the Palestinian side and worldwide condemning what happened on October 7th. You don't need to be an Israeli guy to condemn October 7th. You can definitely be a Palestinian. You know what? You can be a pro-Palestinian person who's protesting against Israel in the United States. Obviously, I'm against it. Obviously, I think they do not understand enough of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to protest against Israel. But even those people who condemn Israel and its actions can still condemn October 7th atrocities. Unfortunately, I don't see it enough. And I think it comes mainly because people are not aware of what happened on October 7th. That's the first thing. And the protests and the demonstrations against Israel worldwide are because people, it became very trendy. People go and protest against Israel because it's very trendy. They know nothing about Israel. And as for your question regarding the Palestinians, I do hope to see more condemnation from the Palestinian side. For instance, from the PA, who has not yet condemned the massacre that happened on October 7th. Hopefully we'll hear good news, which means condemnation from the Palestinian side, more condemnation. And
a little hard to do it, very complicated, so that they can do it because they are in the middle of whatever.
That's so easy. When something bad, when there is a massacre against human beings, regardless of where it is, you have to send your condolences and condemn it and say how wrong it is. It's as simple as that. Whether it happens in Sudan or in Myanmar or in it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's your country, whether it's your people, whether it's your location. You just, your fundamental, a person's, a human being's fundamental values, core values, should tell him what's right and what's wrong. Sometimes there is no gray zone. It's so simple. Committing a massacre on children is wrong. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, during the last 10 months, we've been witnessing the fact that apparently it's not that simple. And that we have to convince people and show people and prove people how wrong the massacre was in order for them to condemn it. But if that's what we have to do, then that's what we will do. Because we cannot give up on remembering and commemorating those we lost. We cannot give up on sharing their stories and their testimonies. We cannot give up to those in the international community who are telling us, basically, in other words, you do not have the legitimacy to protect yourself. And what I always say is that Israel doesn't have the right to protect itself. It has the duty to protect itself. It has the obligation to protect itself. There is no question here. It has the obligation to protect its population, its sovereignty, its people. And we're proven of it every day, with the attacks against Israel. We're still in war. And hopefully we'll manage to bring our hostages back. Hopefully we'll manage to bring home as many of our soldiers as possible, safe and healthy. And yeah, we will not give up. We'll not give up, simply.
Something that I know it's very hard to answer, but let me ask you, because you talk with them, is there any people in Gaza or with the Palestinian Authority with whom Israel can speak after this war? This war has to end. Someday it has to end. Israel has to go out from Gaza, and something has to happen. Is there somebody with whom to talk, who can take the order? What do you think it will happen the day Israel says, we finish, we go back to our normal lives? I hope it's soon. The hostages are back in Israel. We don't have any more things to fight. What will happen? Did you know somebody? Is there somebody? Are there people in the Palestinian Authority who can take the hand, raise their hand and say, we will take charge of it and we will do a peace? I don't know.
So I can't tell you who can do it. I can tell you for sure who can't. It's Hamas, who needs to be eliminated completely, and every other terrorist organization. But regarding that question, which is again a very important question, and each one of us has. I can't hear you. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So regarding that question, and that's a very important question that each one of us has, is their own personal perspectives, political perspectives of what needs to happen after October 7th. That's a question that I prefer to leave for both the military and the political echelons. They're the ones who need to make those decisions with the information they have. They have the intelligence and the military information I don't possess. I don't have access to that information. And hopefully they will find the most productive answers for the so-called day after the war. But I don't have answers since I don't have all the information. And since, again, I'm trying to focus on commemorating the events and leaving the work of what's going to happen after the war ends to other people, such as the military and political officials.
And to finish, because you have other things to do also, we were talking about the book, about what's your expectation with the book, and what are your expectations about what will happen in Israel and in the world after some other months or some days or whatever, when this is finished?
So regarding the book, I did it in order for the international community to be exposed to what happened. And this is what I intend to do. I intend to keep distributing it worldwide towards leaders, to the White House, to the EU, to the UN. I intend to try and get to the American market, to the British market, to the Australian market as soon as possible. Obviously, we're talking here with a Mexican news outlet, so I'm encouraging the people of Mexico to go to Amazon Mexico and purchase the book, send it to your friends, share it with your family. That's so important. You know, when you look at Amazon right now, so you can see, I'm sure you know who Aid Tamimi is, the Palestinian terrorist Aid Tamimi. So her book is on the top of the books in the category of Israel-Palestine history on Amazon. So in order to change just that, I'm encouraging everyone to go on Amazon and purchase the book and share it with your friends. It's so important that we share the story of October 7th that won't work without the both the Jewish community and the pro-Israeli communities around the world supporting the book, purchasing it, sharing it with their people, with their friends, with their relatives. I am expecting the book to be in the hands of the most important people, including the President of the United States, whoever it's going to be, and make an impact. Because once a person, an individual, reads the book, it stays with him. It stays with him even in his conscience, even if they don't want it to stay with them. It stays with them, and it's a good thing because it should stay with them. It's been only 10 months since the massacre, and they shouldn't forget from it so fast. And there is a feeling that some of the leaders in some countries around the world, and especially the populations, you know, that the populations around the world, those who are not part of the Jewish or pro-Israeli communities, already forgot about October 7th. And distributing the book is a national mission in order to make sure that as many people as possible get exposed to it, know what happened, share it with other people, and raise basically Israel's legitimacy worldwide. This is basically a fight for Israel's legitimacy, for Israel's diplomacy, for Israel's right and duty to defend itself. and my intentions with the book are very high. But in order to achieve them, in order to accomplish that point where it gets to the most important senior officials worldwide, we need you. We need you guys. We need the people. We need our friends overseas to support us, to assist us, to promote the most important commemoration initiative that already exists. We just needed to give it another push.
Tell me, just this is not a commercial book. You are not making money about it. You are helping. You are doing it because many will think, he's just using it to get, I don't know, money from it.
So I'll mention that I'm using all the money I get in order to translate the book to more languages. And once it is translated to more languages, and by the way, it is being translated as we speak to Spanish as well, so it can get to as many people as possible. I'm not making money out of it. That's not my purpose. That has never been my goal. My goals are commemorating the events and helping Israel's legitimacy overseas, and that's what I'm doing. And I'll keep promoting, obviously, the purchasing of the book because this is what helps us distribute it worldwide. This is the money that is given to us to promote the initiative and translate it to more languages and promote it in more locations all over the world. So obviously my purpose is not a personal one. I've sacrificed my mental health for that project. It's definitely not helping me. I've been going to a psychologist since the beginning of the war. I can tell you that for every book that is sold, even if I got the money from the books, every book that is sold is 4 times less than the money I have to pay to my therapist. That's between me and you and the entire world. I don't care to say, I don't mind to say it, I've sacrificed my mental health for that project. And so I can tell you, as honest and as open as I can be, that this is for a way greater cause than myself. This is not about me. This is about Israel and the victims on October 7th.
Thank you very much for that. We will try to find somebody here in Mexico who wants to translate it, who want to pay, who want to do it. I think it's possible. There are coming a lot of commemoration. Just to finish, is there something that you have been around the world giving some conferences, you have talked in many places. Is there something that you want to say that nobody asked you, or you didn't have the opportunity to say it, and you want to say to the world, to the Jewish communities and to the non-Jewish communities, that it's inside you and you want to say, I'm not your therapist, sorry, but if it helps, something you want to say that you couldn't say to anybody and you have inside there and want to share with us?
I do. I want to say that we should not give up. Sometimes many times people tell me, your work is very important, your initiative is very important, but the world would always be against us, and people would always hate us, and people would never listen. And I will always say that we must try, and it's not that we must try for ourselves, we must try for those we lost, for those who survived, for our heroes, for our country, for the legitimacy of our country. We can't just say they don't listen, so we give up. We must keep assisting those initiatives. We must keep believing that there are people who are still listening, obviously not from the extreme edges on both sides, but in the middle. There are people listening, looking forward to getting credible information, and we have the power to make a change and make an influence and make an impact, especially with a product that already exists, with a book that is already in our hands. Don't give up. People's perspectives can change while you face them with the truth. And that's why I have to say, don't give up. Simply don't. We have the duty to keep fighting for our legitimacy.
Alon, we have many more questions, but you have to go. We will be in touch. We will be working with you here at Diario Judío and our media. We will be
looking forward
to hear from you and to know about your notice and about the book, and we will spread this as much as possible. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you. Dank